I stood outside the courthouse with nothing but the clothes on my back and a manila envelope stuffed with legal papers that made it official. I had lost everything. My wife had just walked away with our $3 for Million Mansion, half of all I owned, wearing that smug little grin like she'd just won some twisted prize. As we crossed the threshold of the heavy glass doors, she leaned in close. I thought maybe she'd say something gentle, maybe acknowledge the years we spent together. But she didn't. She locked eyes with me and whispered, "You're pathetic." That word cut deeper than anything her lawyer had thrown at me in court. She walked off with Milo, my best friend since I was 20, and he didn't even glance back. That night, I parked my truck behind a Route 9 diner, curled up in the driver's seat, and tried to retrace every step that led me here. Around midnight, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something nudged me to pick up. A calm voice said, "Mr. Mercer, we've been trying to reach you for 15 years. This is the Gallon Private Banking Group in Zurich. We believe you are the rightful heir to an account belonging to Victor Mercer." I froze. Uncle Victor had vanished nearly 20 years ago. The man recited an account number, paused, and then added, "Mr. Mercer, the balance in this account is $47 million. My heart was hammering when he continued, "There's something you need to know about how it got there. My name is Ethan Mercer. I'm 51 years old, and until last year, I thought my life was solid. I wasn't rich by most standards, but I had worked hard to build something real. 30 years in construction, swinging a hammer, laying foundations with my own hands, earning every dollar through sweat and busted knuckles. I believed in loyalty, in family, in waking up early and going to bed tired. I thought that was enough to keep a life together. Lila and I met when we were teenagers. I was 21 when we married. She had this spark in her eyes and a way of lighting up a room without even speaking. I fell for her fast and hard. Back then, we had almost nothing. A tiny one-bedroom near Poughkeepsie, some secondhand furniture, and big dreams. I'd take any job I could, roofing, framing, remodeling, while Lila worked at a diner during the day and studied nursing at night. We were a team in those early years. Our first tax return felt like winning the lottery. We built our credit, bought a beat-up house, and poured everything into fixing it up. I worked until my fingers bled, and she'd bring me lemonade and half sandwiches, sitting on the front porch talking about the future. I loved her. I really did. Eventually, I started my own crew. Word spread. I got bigger jobs, bigger bids. One year, I landed a city contract that changed everything. We went from scraping by to actually having something. That's when I surprised her with the mansion. Not a flashy, glass palace, but a classic brick estate. Ivy crawling up the walls, tall trees standing guard around it. Westchester County. Quiet, peaceful. 5 bedrooms, a wine cellar we never used. A garden Lila promised to fill with lavender, but never did. $3 for a million. I paid most of it in cash, financed the rest. I thought I was giving her a dream. She called it a real home. But something shifted. Lila started changing. She joined a country club, then a charity board. Her hair was always done, her conversations drifting toward wine tastings instead of home-cooked dinners. I told myself it was just growth. People change. Maybe I just needed to catch up. Still, I tried to keep life simple. Weekends with my daughter Sophie, now 23, stubborn like me, witty like her mother. We watched movies, walked the dogs, fished off the dock when we could. My mother, Clara, still lived just outside Kingston. Every Sunday after church, I'd bring her over for dinner, even when Lila grumbled. Then there was Milo, more than a friend. We'd built decks, hunted deer, moved furniture for each other, drank beer under the stars. When my father died, Milo held my mother's hand at the funeral when I couldn't find the words. I trusted him more than my own brother. I would have taken a bullet for him. And yet, I didn't see what was happening. Maybe I didn't want to. Lila and Milo started spending more time together, charity events, late-night planning meetings. She said I was always too tired from work. I didn't argue. I just kept going, hoping that if I worked harder, she'd notice how much I still loved her. But the gap between us grew. Real conversation stopped. She slept in the guest room most nights. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how we drifted so far from those porch days with sandwiches. I kept thinking about something Uncle Victor told me when I was 17. He was the odd one in the family. Bentley, cufflinks at Thanksgiving. He once looked me in the eye and said, "Eli, never think a roof means safety." Sometimes it just keeps the truth from falling on your head. I didn't get it then. I do now. The real collapse wasn't a single moment. It was slow, grinding, like a stone eroding in a river. Trust were thin. I hoped she'd turn back, that we could fix it. But she was already gone, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. All that remained was the paperwork. Even then, I never expected her to go this far. I didn't see the storm coming until it hit me full force. It was a Thursday. I remember that because I always came home early on Thursdays. I'd been working on a big deck in Syracuse, extending it with custom cedar planks. I wrapped up early, climbed into my truck, boots crusted with dried mud, back screaming from the day's labor, and drove straight home. I was planning a little surprise for Lila. Her favorite cannoli from that Italian place she loved in White Plains. I had this foolish hope that maybe we could sit outside together, talk like we used to, maybe find a spark we could cling to. Pulling into the driveway, I noticed Milo's truck near the garage. Nothing unusual. He stopped by sometimes to help with repairs or drop off wild game after hunting. But something felt wrong. The house was too quiet, the air too still. I walked in through the back, past the kitchen, and then I heard it. A soft, muffled laugh from upstairs. Her laugh. The same one that used to make her eyes crinkle at the corners when I tickled her behind the knees. But this time, it wasn't for me. I didn't storm up the stairs. I didn't yell. I didn't want to believe what my gut was already screaming. Step by step, I climbed, each one heavier than the last. At the bedroom door, I heard Milo's voice, then hers again. I opened it. There they were, my wife, my best friend. No panic, no shame. Just that quiet knowing that comes when two people have been caught, but don't care enough to explain. Milo scrambled for his shirt. Lila didn't move. She just sat on the edge of the bed, crossed her legs, smoothed her hair, and said in the calmest voice I'd ever heard, "You're early." Milo muttered something, but I don't remember the words. Hollow. Weak. I wasn't listening. I turned and walked out. No screaming, no punches, just silence. I went down to the garage, sat on a stack of plywood, and stared at the floor for what felt like an hour. Suddenly, everything from the past few years made sense. The late nights, the forced smiles, the way she drifted from Sophie, from my mother, from me. That night, I slept in the guest room. The cannoli sat untouched on the counter. By morning, it was in the trash. Lila had filed for divorce. No arguments. No begging. No pretending. She was done, and she wanted what she thought was hers. Half, maybe more. I tried to stay civil. I suggested we settle quietly. She laughed and said, "You're the builder, not the brain. Let the court decide." She had hired one of the most expensive divorce attorneys in the state, Harrington. Sharp, cold, eyes like a shark, suit pristine. He shredded my reputation piece by piece in court, painting me as emotionally unstable, temperamental, a controlling workaholic who neglected his wife. They twisted the truth until our life barely resembled reality. Texts were pulled out of context. Two former subcontractors were called to testify about a payment dispute from years ago. Even my financial records from a rough year during the recession were subpoenaed to suggest I was hiding assets. I sat there, suit choking my neck, watching strangers rip apart the life I'd built. Lila didn't flinch. Not once. Black dress, hair pinned up, legs crossed, like she was at a fashion show instead of a courtroom. When Sophie tried to speak for me, explaining how her mother had changed, Lila didn't even glance her way. After 9 months of hearings and battles, the judge ruled. The mansion was hers. Most of our savings, hers. Retirement accounts split. My tools, my truck, and the tiny apartment I'd rented for a roof over my head. That was all that remained for me. I wasn't shocked by the decision. I was shocked by how empty I felt. Not angry, not sad. Just numb, like I was watching someone else's story unfold, and I was merely a background character. Outside the courthouse, I stood alone. Milo was nowhere to be seen. I imagined him inside the mansion, helping her celebrate, maybe pouring champagne into the crystal glasses I'd unpacked the day we moved in. Lila passed by, her lawyer beside her. She looked at me once. No emotion, no hesitation. Leaned in, whispered, "You're pathetic," and then walked away. I didn't chase her. I didn't say a word. I climbed into my truck, hands still shaking, and sat behind the wheel. I had lost my wife, my best friend, my home, the life I had spent 30 years building. But that night, everything was about to change. I couldn't face the white walls and stale air of the apartment. I needed to get away, from the city, from everything that reminded me of what I had lost. Around 10, I pulled into a diner parking lot off Route 9, killed the engine, leaned my head back. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it ring twice before answering. At first, I thought it might be the court or Lila, calling to gloat. Almost hung up. But a calm European voice asked, "Is this Ethan Mercer?" I hesitated. "Who's asking?" "Julian Hart with Gallon Private Banking Group. Zurich," he said. "We've been trying to reach you for several years. Are you the nephew of Victor Mercer?" My uncle Victor hadn't crossed my mind in a long time. He had been my father's older brother, the oddball in a family of carpenters and farmers. Always dressed in expensive suits, smoking Cuban cigars, carrying this air like he knew secrets the rest of us couldn't even imagine. He'd drop by every few years, hand me crisp $100 bills on my birthday, and disappear just as suddenly. He hadn't been seen since I was in my 20s. Rumor had it he'd moved to Europe, made a fortune, and vanished. I cleared my throat. Yeah, Victor was my uncle. Why? The man on the line continued. "Mr. Mercer, you are the sole listed beneficiary on a dormant account. We're required to contact you before its automatic liquidation. The account hasn't been touched in 15 years. Your uncle gave explicit instructions. The funds were to be released only after a certain legal condition was met." "What condition?" I asked, sitting up straighter. "We were to wait until you were no longer legally bound by a marriage license." The words hit like a gust of icy wind. "What kind of funds are we talking about?" I asked, my voice barely steady. There was a pause. Then he said, "The account contains $47,089,421.77 as of this evening's statement." I couldn't speak. My hands trembled uncontrollably. I stared at the dashboard like maybe the numbers would appear there, confirming what I'd just heard. "Are you still on the line?" the man asked. "Yes," I said. "Barely." He explained that my uncle had transferred a series of off-the-books investments, private equities, old-world banking bonds, into this account over 10 years before disappearing from the financial world. The money had grown slowly, quietly, waiting in a vault shielded by secrecy and strict legal protection. Why wasn't I contacted sooner? I asked, still trying to process it. "Your uncle was meticulous. He did not trust your spouse," the banker said. His words, not mine. "He instructed us to wait until your marital status changed. He said, and I quote, 'Eli needs to be free before he remembers who he is.'" The phrase stunned me. I remembered Victor saying something similar when I was a teenager, back when I thought he was just a flashy old man with too many secrets. He had taken me fishing once, when I was 16, and told me, "Money's just a mirror, kid. It shows you what you're made of. Just make sure you know who you are when you see the reflection." I'd never forgotten it, even when I didn't understand it. The banker continued, "We require your physical presence in Zurich to process final identification and paperwork. We will cover all travel and accommodation. The funds can be transferred wherever you designate." I didn't say yes right away. I told him I needed time. He understood and gave me a direct contact number. After the call, I sat in the dark cab of my truck, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only solid thing left in my life. I looked up at the stars through the windshield. Somewhere out there, my entire reality had just shifted, but I didn't feel powerful. I felt small, confused, suspended between two worlds. The next morning, I called my mother. I told her everything. She didn't gasp or squeal or act shocked. "That man always did know more than he let on," she said. "Maybe now you can finally breathe." Sophie was next. Quiet for a moment, then, "Dad, you deserve this. But don't let it change who you are." I booked a flight to Zurich that afternoon. No hesitation. I packed a duffel bag with 2 pairs of jeans, 3 shirts, a worn leather wallet, and the watch my father gave me when I graduated high school. Everything else stayed behind. I didn't tell Lila. She didn't deserve to know. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need a courtroom. What I needed was to discover what my uncle had left me. Not just the money, but the reason. Because something told me this wasn't just about dollars in a bank account. It was something deeper. The plane touched down in Zurich on a gray Monday morning. The city looked like a postcard. Clean streets, historic stone buildings, sharp suits everywhere. I hadn't left the country since my honeymoon in Mexico, and now I was walking through a Swiss airport with a bank invitation tucked in my coat pocket. A driver met me at arrivals, black Mercedes, Firm handshake, polite nod. No small talk. He drove straight through the city and up a hill overlooking Lake Zurich. The car stopped at a stone building with tall iron gates, gold letters etched into the arch, Gallon Private Banking Group. Inside, the air smelled of leather and polish. I was escorted down a long hallway into a private office that looked more like a library. Mahogany bookshelves, a massive globe, and a lake view that could calm your soul. A man in his early 60s stepped forward with a warm smile. "Mr. Mercer, welcome. We've been waiting a long time for you." He poured coffee, handed me a thick folder, and began to explain everything. Uncle Victor hadn't just vanished. He had deliberately removed himself from the American financial system, sold his properties, moved his investments into a trust under multiple foreign jurisdictions, using shell companies, old money channels, and insider banking codes. Not illegal, but extremely private. The folder contained letters. Handwritten letters from Victor, addressed to me, held until my divorce was finalized. The first read, "Eli, I know this won't make sense at first, but I've watched you from a distance. I saw how hard you worked. I saw the man you became. I always wanted to leave you something. Not just money, but freedom. I couldn't do it while you were married to that woman. I'm sorry, but I never trusted her. I saw through her long before you did." Another letter included a journal entry from years ago. "When I was just a kid, Eli builds with his hands. He thinks with his heart. He'll be a better man than I ever was." I had to stop reading. My eyes welled up. For years, I thought Victor had forgotten about us. Turns out, he'd been planning something all along, something just for me. Julian slid a document across the table. It authorized the full release of the funds into any account I designated. He explained the total assets, stocks, gold holdings, and even a private villa in the south of France that was technically mine. My hands shook as I signed. Just like that, my life changed. Again. But it wasn't just about money. It was about what came next. The flight home felt different. I wasn't the same man who had left. The bitterness from the divorce lingered, but something had shifted inside me. I felt grounded, not because I had millions, but because I finally realized I hadn't lost everything. I'd simply been stripped down to who I really was. The first call I made when I landed was to Sophie. I told her everything. She didn't ask for a single thing. She just said, "Does this mean you're coming home?" I told her yes, but home wouldn't be that empty apartment, and it definitely wouldn't be the mansion my ex-wife now shared with my ex-best friend. I bought a ranch house outside Nashville. Open land, wraparound porch, plenty of room for Sophie to visit whenever she wanted. I fixed it up myself, windows, flooring, deck. Every nail went in with purpose. A week later, Lila found out. She called. I let it ring. She called again. This time, I answered. "Ethan," she said, voice softer than I'd heard in years. "I made a mistake. I never stopped loving you." I was angry and confused. I let her speak for a moment, then said, "You didn't love me when I had everything. You loved what I gave you. Now you want back in because I'm worth more on paper. I'm not the same man you walked away from." She started to cry. I waited. Then I said, "I forgive you, Lila, but I'll never forget what you said outside that courtroom, and I'll never be yours again." I hung up. Milo tried calling too. Left a message. "Ethan, man to man, I messed up. Things got complicated. I should have been honest." I deleted it without listening to the rest. I didn't need apologies. I didn't need revenge. I needed peace. And I found it. The last gift my uncle left me wasn't in Swiss francs or property deeds. It was the truth. He saw what I couldn't. He gave me the means to rebuild, not just a house or a bank account, but a life that was mine again. And this time, I wasn't going to waste a single moment. I wake most mornings before the sun, just like I always have. Old habits stick. But now, instead of rushing out the door in work boots with a thermos of black coffee, I sit on the porch of my new home and listen to the quiet. The house itself is nothing flashy. A ranch-style place with a long gravel driveway, an old oak tree out front, and a creaky porch swing I built with my own hands. I don't need marble floors or million-dollar chandeliers. I just need honesty, peace, and the kind of silence that comes without guilt or shame. Sophie visits often. She brings her guitar, sits on the porch edge, and strums while I grill steaks or sip coffee. She tells me about her life, her goals, and her dream of opening a small cafe. I offered her money to start it, but she insists on earning it herself. That's how I know she'll make it. She's got fire, but steady. I see the best of both her parents in her. My grit, her mother's focus. I just hope she learns to love better than we did. My mother, Clara, still lives in the house I grew up in. She refuses to move, even though I offered a new place. She says, I have everything I need right here. I get it now. You don't always need to upgrade to move forward. Sometimes standing still in the right place is enough. Lila never called again. Milo never showed up at my door. The life they chose is theirs to carry. I don't wish them pain, but I no longer carry any part of their story on my back. The last few months, I've learned to enjoy stillness. I bought a dog, a shepherd mix named Rusty. He follows me everywhere. I joined a local veterans group, not as a veteran, just to volunteer and lend a hand. I find peace building things for people who need them, ramps, decks, benches for parks. Reminds me that the work of your hands still matters, no matter how heavy your bank account gets. I also made a decision. I took a portion of the money and started a foundation, the Mercer Grant, to help single fathers rebuilding after divorce. I remember those nights sleeping in my truck, not knowing where to go, feeling shut out by the world. No man should feel that alone. If I can help even one get back on his feet, then maybe everything I lost and everything I gained will mean something more. The greatest lesson I've learned: your worth isn't measured by what you lose or what you own. It's measured by what you can rebuild when everything is stripped away. Money didn't fix me. It didn't heal the betrayal or erase the pain, but it gave me a second chance. I used it to become the man I was before life wore me down. So if you're watching this, broken, someone walked out on you, took everything you thought defined you, I want you to know, there's a part of you no one can take. It's still there. You just have to dig deep enough to find it. And when you do, protect it. Build around it. Let it guide you home. Thank you for listening to my story. If it moved you, if it made you think about your own life, do 3 simple things. Like the video so more people see it, comment below to share your story or what hit you hardest, and subscribe. There's more to come. This isn't the end of my story. It's just the beginning of something better. Thanks for being part of it.